Okay. Well, this is an interesting letter. They're all interesting, of course, but this one's a little bit different. We know that Nietzsche, oftentimes, when he writes letters to his followers, his students, whatever level they are at, uh, he usually prefaces things with some kind of a thank you for their offering and reporting it to the Lotus Sutra, that kind of thing. And that's usually a preface. But this letter, not very long, but basically the whole letter is quite an important thank you because it recognizes a lot of activities. So I think I'll read this background, take it for what it is, and this is about Nanjo Tokumitsu, who we've read about before, but it goes into a little bit more of his importance to Nichiren's proselytizing in his time, and it's quite some history between Nichiren and Tokumitsu. By the way, thank you for being here. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Started this one off a little differently, didn't I? So let's get into this. The background here says this was written in Minobu, as many of these letters have been, in 1280, sent to Tokumitsu, the young steward of Ueno village in Tsuruga province. Since Nichiren had come to live in Minobu, Tokumitsu had been particularly close to Nikko, one of the inner circle of Nichiren's close disciples, or senior monks, if you will. Supporting his propagation efforts in the Fuji area. So Tokumitsu was working very closely with Nikko, who was still traveling, whereas Nichiren was retreated to Minobu. And during the Atsuhara persecution, years earlier, he used his influence to protect other believers, other students, sheltering some in his own home and negotiating for the release of others who had been imprisoned. As we know, the largely Nembutsu ruling class of Japan didn't like this troublemaker Nichiren, and so one of the ways they put pressure on Nichiren was by persecuting his followers, his students, right? Nichiren honored him for his courage doing this, helping his other students, by calling him Ueno the Worthy, which is the form of the title of this Gosho, though the young man was barely 20 at the time. So, as a very young man, this Tokumitsu displayed a lot of courage and dedication to Nichiren. This letter was written over a year after the worst period of the Atsuhara persecution. The authorities in Kamakura, in retaliation for Tokumitsu's support of Nichiren's followers, had imposed heavy punitive taxes on his estate and demanded that he supply men for unpaid labor. So part of his fief, Tokumitsu's fief, was taken as slave labor as retaliation for his continued support of Nichiren. Despite his own destitution, however, Tokumitsu's first concern was for Nichiren, and he somehow managed to send him 1,000 coins. Deeply touched, Nichiren wrote him this response. So now you have a bit of a context for this letter. I have received your offering of 1,000 coins because you have demonstrated such sincerity. I will tell you something. You must not think I am a greedy monk. I will teach you how to become a Buddha easily. Teaching another something is the same as oiling the wheels of a cart so that they turn even though it is heavy, or as floating a boat on water so that it moves ahead easily. The way to become a Buddha easily is nothing special. It is the same as giving water to a thirsty person in a time of drought, or as providing fire for a person freezing in the cold. Or, again, it is the same as giving another something that is one of a kind, or as offering something as alms to another, even at the risk of one's own life, which is quite appropriate in this case, right? There, and here Nichiren is actually describing Buddhist compassion, but he's doing so as a bodhisattva assisting an avid student and giving him the answer to the puzzles, not leading him along, saying, look, it's very simple. If you want to attain enlightenment, all of this that you're doing is as honorable as it is. You don't have to do all this in order to attain your Buddhahood, but your efforts are amazing. So he wants on the same time, in the same breath, to teach him how to attain his own Buddhahood, but at the same time, deep appreciation for all of these samsaric efforts that he's making to ensure the propagation of the Lotus Sutra, right? So it's a complicated kind of letter. That's why I read the background first, so you could kind of see the complexity implicit in Nichiren's teaching here. There was once a ruler called King Golden Color. For 12 years his country was besieged by a severe drought, and countless numbers of people died of starvation. In the rivers, corpses were treated as bridges. What a horrific scene. And on land, skeletons were regarded as burial mounds. At that time, King Golden Color aroused a great aspiration to save others and distributed a vast quantity of alms. He gave away everything he could, until a mere 5 measures of rice remained in his storehouse. When his ministers informed him that this would provide him with food for a single day, the great king took up the 5 measures of rice and let each of his starving subjects, for example, 1 or 2 grains, or 3 or 4 grains. Then he looked up to the heavens and raised his voice, crying out that he would take the pain of all the people's hunger and thirst on himself and die of starvation. The heavenly deities heard him and instantly sent down a sweet rain of immortality. All those people whose bodies this rain touched or whose faces it fell upon became satiated with food, and in the space of a moment the inhabitants of the entire country revived. So obviously this is a fable, right? A fable about generosity and how in the end there's always a tremendous payoff, right? And interesting, this paragraph follows the one where he said, I will teach you how to become a Buddha. It's very easy. And so this bolsters that statement that these aren't empty words of Nichiren, that we know from this folklore that's been traditionally part of our culture for many, many, many years, that this is the way to excellence, right? In India, and yet another fable, in India there was a wealthy man called Sudatta. 7 times he became poor, and 7 times he became a wealthy man. During his last period of poverty, when all the people had fled or perished, and only he and his wife remained, they had 5 measures of rice, again the odd number 5, that would nourish them for 5 days. At that time, 5 people, Mahakashyapa, Shariputra, Ananda, Rahula, and Shakyamuni Buddha himself, came one after another to beg for the 5 measures of rice, which Sudatta gave them. From that day on, Sudatta was the wealthiest man in all of India, and he built Jetavana monastery. From this, you should understand all things. Just as a monkey resembles a man and rice cake resembles the moon, you already resemble the devotee of the Lotus Sutra. Because you so earnestly protected my followers in Atsuhara, the people of this country consider you to be like Masakado of the Shohei era, or Sadato of the Tenji era. And we can look those up, and you can probably tell what those stories are about. They're very noble personages, right? This is solely because you have devoted your life to the Lotus Sutra. The heavenly deities do not in the least regard you as a man who has betrayed his lord. In addition, well, that statement regards the fact that he's being imposed all these levies and fines and so forth by the Nembutsu, largely Nembutsu landowners and ruling classes, right? So though they don't recognize it, you're not betraying them by doing what you're doing. Far from it. You're actually helping to rescue their Buddhahood, but they just don't understand that. In addition, having had numerous public works forcibly assigned to your little village, you yourself lack the horse you should be riding, and your wife and children lack the clothing they should be wearing. You're feeling anxious that the votary of the Lotus Sutra was probably being assailed by snow amidst the mountains and in want of food, and sending me 1,000 coins even in such circumstances is exactly like the poor woman giving a begging monk the single garment that she had and her husband wore, or like Rida, remember King Rida, giving the millet in his jar to a Pratyeka Buddha, a man of realization. How admirable, how noble. I will speak to you in more detail later. So Nichiren is quite deeply touched by Tokumitsu's constant support of his efforts, right? And so this letter is titled The Wealthy Man Sudatta, and he's giving all this praise to Tokumitsu. So I'm sure Tokumitsu takes this deeply to heart. As we today have our own struggles, it's easy to forget that struggles are relative, aren't they? In the authoritarian times, struggles can become much more visceral and much more difficult. And conversely, we perhaps, us silly humans, develop much deeper resolve and appreciation for what might seem like little things, but really profoundly affect our lives, right? So that's why I thought this was an interesting letter. Some of you have already chimed in on once we finish this book, and I think there's maybe not even a dozen, maybe less than 10 goshos to go before I've talked on every gosho I have at my disposal. It'll be time to start talking on other subjects. The Perfection of Wisdom by Nagarjuna has come up. I would like also perhaps to dive back into some documents that I have regarding Vasubandhu's the Skandhas. I think a lot of people who practice Buddhism aren't really well read on the nature of our consciousnesses. But, you know, maybe that's just interesting to me, so I'll wait for you guys to weigh in on that. I think I may go through a library of certain sutras and documents that I might like to expound upon, and make it kind of a vote for see which one gets the most attention. I haven't done that yet. I'm just blabbing about it right now. So, but if you have ideas, I'm certainly keen to hear them. And in the meantime, please take care of your health. It's the main thing we need in order to continue our practice and keep it strong. And let's all awaken our Buddha. We really need it in this age of confusion and manipulation. Stay strong in your practice. I believe in you, and I'm really rewarded by your participations, your support. Don't forget, you can download these videos as podcasts, so you don't have to look at my funny face. You can just listen to these discussions. And with that said, thank you again for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Bye. Hey, thank you for being here. Did you know there's a third way you can help support this channel? And it won't cost you a cent. Yep. If you are not able to be a patron on Patreon or use the PayPal me at .com at Sifu Sylvain because you don't have the financial fortune to help support this channel right now, you, as I say, always support this channel by watching, but you can also help us grow so that maybe one day we can get over 10,000 subscribers and YouTube will grace us with monetization. It's not a lot, but if you can make sure you're subscribed and share a video like a simple one, just go into the search criteria and type monk, and you'll have a video that'll come up that's been up for years about what is a monk. You know, it's called monk, who, how, where, something like that. That might be a great introduction to somebody who doesn't understand what a monk is to begin with. It's a tool. Use this channel as a tool to help you with your bodhisattva practice, and share a video to somebody who you think, oh, I know somebody who'll benefit from watching this. And in that way, you can help us grow. And that's a really good way to help your practice along as well. So just wanted to drop that in on you in case that's something that you might find useful. Take care of yourself again, and I'll see you soon. Bye.